Test, 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 test.
We march forward, automation alive.
Wrong countdown.
In a world of ones and zeros where the glitches never sleep, there's a guild of testers uncovering secrets deep. They're not afraid of change, they embrace the unknown, coding up a storm, paving the way for what's to come. They break the barriers with automation as the guide, testing every byte, they won't let bugs hide. They're the heroes of the virtual, the guardians of code, building a future where testing is their ode. Test good, oh test good, voice of QA, guiding us through the complexities that come our way. With automation in your hands, you make the impossible real. Test good, oh test good, let's automate and reveal. In a realm where codes reside, heroes rise on a quest they've tried to conquer bugs and vanquish fears. Their weapons are the ones nobody hears. With keyboards clashing and systems hum, they navigate through realms never stopping. In dungeons dark, they test with might, defending the kingdom, bringing light. Code crusaders unite as one, automation warriors, let's get it done. With techno beats and a D&D vibe, we march forward, automation alive. In a world of ones and zeros where the glitches never sleep, there's a guild of testers uncovering secrets deep. They're not afraid of change, they embrace the unknown, coding up a storm, paving the way for what's to come. They break the barriers with automation as the guide, testing every byte, they won't let bugs hide. They're the heroes of the virtual, the guardians of code, building a future where testing is their ode. Test good, oh test good, voice of QA, guiding us through the complexities that come our way. With automation in your hands, you make the impossible real. Test good, oh test good, let's automate and reveal. In a realm where codes reside, heroes rise on a quest they've tried to conquer bugs and vanquish fears. Their weapons are the ones nobody hears. With keyboards clashing and systems hum, they navigate through realms never stopping. In dungeons dark, they test with might, defending the kingdom, bringing light. Code crusaders unite as one, automation warriors, let's get it done. With techno beats and a D&D vibe, we march forward, automation alive.
right, hey, welcome everyone to this awesome roundtable on what's next in robot framework, how AI shapes testing, and how RoboCon accelerates your journey. If you haven't been to RoboCon yet, you definitely want to check it out. If you go to the Learn More tab, there's actually a link directly to RoboCon. All right, so to start things off, let's go to the chat, warm up your fingers, let me know where you all are from. I see Mo's from Atlanta. We have someone from France. Stephanie's here from Maryland. Hey, Eric's in the Netherlands. We have Philip. All right. Juliette's in France. A lot of people from France. Greece is in the house. Awesome. All right. So if you're just joining us, here's a few things that get the most out of this event. The first one is the chat. Chat is where we chat among ourselves. You have any insights you want to share with your fellow attendees? Chat is where you put it. And that's to the right of this video if you are watching in Test Guild. However, we're also live streaming to YouTube. So if you're in YouTube, drop me something in the chat. Tell me where you're from. I see Rohit. He's in India. He's watching on YouTube. Hey, Rohit, good to see you. So if you're in YouTube, just use a comment. Tell me where you're from. If you're in the Test Guild platform, it's in chat. All right, if you have any questions for our roundtable speakers, you'd go to the Q&A and polls tab, which is to the right of the chat. Just drop your question for your speaker or for the speakers, and we'll ask that question live. And once again, learn more about RoboCon. Click on that Learn More tab. First question I get asked all the time, is this being recorded? Yes, this is being recorded, but you want to stay all the way to the end. But in a few days, I will be sending out a video if everything goes well. All right, we have Hungry in the house. Otis, cool. All right, so just to make sure everyone's paying attention, drop me a yes if you want to learn more about Robot Framework and RoboCon. Give me a yes, and we'll kick things off with our expert panel. All right. Get your fingers warmed up. Drop me a yes, and we'll be starting. Just want to make sure everyone's on board and ready to go. Let me double check. It's hard going back and forth between YouTube and Test Guild. All right, guys, we're about to do it. Let's go. Hey, welcome experts to this awesome session. Hey, Ed.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Joe.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Ela, how are you? Manny, how's it going? And we have Pekka here. All right, guys, I think to start things off, we go around the room, maybe introduce yourselves just for the people that don't know you. I'm sure everyone knows you, but just in case, maybe we'll start with you, Ed.
Hi, I'm Ed Manlove, and I am, say hello from Rhode Island.
Nice. Ela?
Hi, I'm Eloud. I'm joining from the Netherlands.
Great. And Manny?
Yeah, hi, this is Mani. I'm joining from...
Mark was born basically as part of my master's thesis. I needed to graduate from the Helsinki University of Technology after spending way too long time there. I had been partly working while studying and working as a test automation engineer, implementing different kind of automation solutions. And for my master's thesis, it felt like somewhat natural to continue with that. And I studied different kind of automation frameworks, created some prototypes, and then one of the prototypes that was keyword-driven looked pretty promising, and then got quite lucky that a colleague of mine, or old colleague of mine, needed automation solution at Nokia Networks in 2005, so already like 20 years ago, and we started then developing a framework based on the prototype ideas, first internally, and then it was open sourced in 2008. It had turned out to be useful at Nokia on different kind of scenarios, on different kind of organizations there. It was open sourced. Nokia was still involved, but 10 years ago, 2015, then we got this Robot Framework Foundation. It was founded, and it's nowadays taking care of the sponsoring and also organizing this RoboCon conference.
Great.
Pekka, you said once that Robot Framework was written also in Düsseldorf, Germany, in my hometown.
Right?
Oh, yeah. The first team that used that, or the organization base, I was I was working for, I was an external consultant there, was like they had part of the development was in Helsinki and part, well, actually in Espoo, but well, it's neighborhood city. And part of the development was in Düsseldorf. So I visited Düsseldorf like, I don't know, 20 times or more in those 2 or 3 years I was working for them. And yeah, so I have to say, I remember when we showed some of the early framework versions, that wasn't anymore the prototype, but was still like very, very early. I showed that to some German engineers in Düsseldorf, and they weren't that intrigued. So things have changed quite a bit. Well, the framework is totally different than it was back then. But yeah, I remember it was kind of a cold welcoming back in early days. But there were some like agile coaches that were really like positive, and they had some early experience from tools like fitness and so on. So I knew the concept and so that this actually makes sense and so on. So it got started then, and yeah. So the first people actually using it were from in Düsseldorf.
Great. So I guess someone just asked, are we not presenting? No, this is not a presentation. It's a roundtable. Ask us anything. So if you have a question for our experts, just drop it in Slido and they'll be sure to answer your question. And here's your chance to ask them directly anything you want to know about Robot Framework or RoboCon. So drop it in Slido into that Q&A and polls tab. All right. So I guess, Ed, let's start with you. You're very active in the community. It's one of the most active communities I'm aware of. A little bit about what people get when they do join maybe RoboCon, online or on site.
Yeah. So, and maybe I can give a good overview of what RoboCon is. So RoboCon is our annual conference. This year is going to be our 9th year in a row. And so we're super excited about it. We've been planning for a few months now. Our call for papers is currently open. And so anybody who has a topic you want to talk about, we primarily focus on robot framework when we're at RoboCon, but we also kind of expand that out into kind of the testing area. But it is our annual conference. We have it in 2 parts. We have a part where we're in person in Helsinki, and this will be the week of February 10th through the 13th. We have it over 4 days. We kind of have the 2 main conference days on the Thursday and Friday, the 12th and the 13th of February of 2026. And then before the 2 main conference days, on Tuesday, the February 10th, is our workshop day. So we have usually around about 8 to 10 workshops covering a variety of topics that we have given by experts. They're full-day workshops. We've done workshops on browser library using Playwright, Selenium library using Selenium. There's some AI workshops usually. There's some introduction workshops, and then Pekka gives his workshop on the kind of the core of robot framework and the API and how to get into that. So there's a few different workshops that we usually give. And then on that Wednesday between the workshop day and the conference, we have what we call our community day. This is a really important day. This is a day I very much enjoy, but it is basically run like an unconference. So this day is a day for people to come out, kind of share with one another. If you're working on a project and you want help, it's a place to go look for help. If you have a question, it's a wonderful day to go around and ask people, how do you solve this problem? And so it's really this wonderful day that the whole community kind of comes together and we work on robot framework. And then we have the formal program on the Thursday and Friday of RoboCon. And so those are usually full day. We have a lot of talks. We're downtown, usually in one of the auditoriums downtown, and have everybody kind of get together for that. There's a few outside activities. We usually have a evening program on Thursday night and a dinner where we try to get all together and have a large dinner. We're kind of working out plans for that. And then people who are still around on Saturday, we usually try to do a cultural event in town. So that's kind of the in-person part of RoboCon. Our second part of RoboCon is kind of the online version. If you think about it, in-person is great for kind of those in-person, face-to-face conversations. But we know, not everybody gets a chance to come out to Helsinki, and to kind of reach that worldwide audience. We also have kind of this second part of our conference, which is the online part. This happens March. We're going to have 2 days of conference where we're having online streaming and this really, really great host. I'm trying to think, what was his name again? Oh, yeah, I know. Joe's his name. Really great guy. But it's 2 days online, March 4th and March 5th. And this year in particular, we're doing something really interesting. We're actually trying to shift our time zone of when we're kind of running the conference. So we're going to have 2 days. The 4th, if I'm not mistaken, our first day is going to be kind of a European and Asia focus time zone. So the conference schedule and broadcasting is going to kind of fit into the working day of those in Europe and Asia. And then our second day, March 5th of 2026, is going to be an Americas focus. And so our time zone are going to be focused so that we can kind of reach people during business hours, going from kind of California all the way out to Brazil. And so that will be our online conference, 4th and 5th of March. And then on the 6th of March, the following day, we're having our online community day and online tutorials. So that's kind of the overall view of RoboCon. Joe, you were asking kind of why come out to RoboCon.
Yeah.
RoboCon's kind of like our premier gathering of the robot framework community. And as you see, we kind of try to fit it for people who can kind of get together in person, and also for those who can't kind of make it out in person, we also work it online so that we kind of reach everybody across the globe. And so RoboCon is really a chance to kind of come out and do all things robot framework, talk to people who are involved within the robot framework project, find help, give help, and just kind of meet other members of the community.
Love it. Love it. So, Manny, I think I always see you on the online RoboCon for the past 3 or 4 years I've been doing it. Do you actually go on site as well to the on-site event?
Yes, from time to time I can manage to go there. This year I was also on site in Helsinki, and I always love it. Unfortunately, this year I couldn't visit the unconference day, which made me a bit sad. Yeah, so it's really great to connect with the people there, and hopefully next time I can do the full experience again.
Awesome. So, Eli, are you presenting this year? And if so, what are you presenting?
Oh, I'm still doubting if what I will be presenting, and but I will definitely submit at least one call for papers. So I'm also highly recommending to other people to think about what they would like to share with the community, and it's a great opportunity to do just something else. I know most of us will have at some point in our career have shared something within our company or within our project, and maybe you kind of think about expanding that a little and step out of your comfort zone and be one of our new faces in the coming conference. That would be great. We're, as a community, we're really welcoming to new people, and we're always looking for new minds to share with us what their journey is and where they're at their open framework journey.
Love it. What I also like is Pekka always does like the state of robot framework, like what you're working on, what's new, the latest and greatest. Pekka, any teasers of what may be released soon or what people can expect at this next event? What Robot Framework's working on?
Well, it's still nearly half a year for the conference, so I hope there's going to be much new features before that. But we're actually going to have a new release relatively soon. I'm hoping this month, but cannot make any promises, so it might be early next month as well. Where in this new release, key feature is going to be so-called secret variables that allows creating variables that are not that won't be accidentally locked. So that if you are working with actual credentials or something like that, well, of course, in test automation, you typically want to be working on test environments and so on, where credentials are not super secret. But if you are using Robot Framework for business automation, which is also possible, and many people are doing that, then of course you are typically working in with live and real systems. And if you need to get in, you need to have actual credentials and so on. You don't want those to be accidentally locked anywhere. So these secret variables, they don't encrypt anything or stuff like that, but they just make sure that the framework doesn't accidentally log something, so that if you are sharing log files with someone else, then they would be visible. So that's very important feature. We have a lot of users in financial sector, for example, and it's obviously important there. Actually, one of the community members who has been working with me to get this feature done is also working for a bank here in Finland. So that's why he got company time to also to help with this feature.
Right. Awesome, awesome. So I'm always amazed. Robot Framework does pretty much everything, and obviously the buzz around anything in automation or testing is AI. So just curious to know. I heard there's some rumors, Manny, you might be dabbling with something with AI and Robot Framework. Is that true? And if so, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, I mean, if we watch the last month, we could see in the AI area that now it's the age of MCP servers. And yeah, I mean, with the Playwright MCP in testing communities being very popular. And I think we can expect a Robot Framework MCP. Yeah, I think some pre-version is already out there. So if you're on the community in the Slack, you will find it. And I'm pretty sure there might be more in that area. Yeah, so I definitely expect some talks about MCP servers at the next RoboCon. Would be surprised if we hadn't some. Yeah.
Nice. Anyone else have any opinions on AI, automation, Robot Framework? Eli, I'm gonna pick on you. Anything around this topic that you're excited about, or?
Well, one thing I can comment is that, well, you said that the Robot Framework can do everything and so on, and all this AI. So one important thing to understand is that the core is important, but it doesn't do much. It's basically like parsing. Its job is parsing the data and then loading libraries and executing keywords and so on. Where the actual power of the framework comes is the ecosystem, and
Right.
Of course, the core is important. The core having APIs for those ecosystem tools is very important. And also, there's nothing AI related in the core, and I really doubt there will be anything exactly like only for AI. What we have been adding over the years are all kind of different APIs that you can use, and that's then what this AI tooling can use. So money has been. You already presented it last RoboCon, this self-healing, one self-healing solution and so on. So those, for example, are using listener APIs and so on. So that's when thinking about the power of Robot Framework, you always need to think about the community and the ecosystem. The ecosystem, of course, is bringing the power, but then the community is actually building the ecosystem. So they're super important, and that's also good because then now that we have all kind of AI ideas floating around, we don't need to add everything to the core. It's possible to experiment and try this and try that, and then something is very very looks good, and that can be developed further without thinking that how backwards compatibility or anything like that.
I think that's even more important that it's AI friendly in the core. Yeah, I mean, we don't need AI features, but having that API, which makes it easy to integrate AI solutions, I think that's a great thing. Yeah. So because you can hook into the test execution, you can parse results easily, you can construct test suites programmatically. I think that makes it very easy to create your own AI solutions, and that's why the community can create some. Yeah.
That's a good point. So you have a lot of libraries that people can build, and I assume it's because it's very extensible. So if there's something not there, maybe there is, you might want to look for it, but it makes it so. Manny, you create a lot of plugins. I guess, is it easy to work with to make plugins or libraries for?
Yeah, I think so. There's a learning curve as usual,
Yep.
but nowadays we have a good documentation. We have a lot of RoboCon, I think, tutorials and talks recorded. We have a good written documentation. So everyone who wants to look into library development, everything is there, and there is still the community. So yeah, I would say it's rather easy if you want to do some coding. Yeah, definitely.
So speaking of community, Elot, any thoughts on community? Have you gotten any help when you're working on projects? Any thoughts around that piece?
Yeah, I have. I'm a huge fan of our Slack channel. There's always activity there. There's not a single day I at least don't read everything that's there. But yeah, especially when I started off with Robot Framework, I got a lot of interesting insights from the Slack channel, which because the documentation is really extensive and good, and I also learned a lot of that about that for Robot Framework. But what really the really insightful information was given through community members, and yeah, through that I was able to expand on knowledge, and yeah, just broaden the experience, and eventually was able to answer questions for others. And now I'm helping within the company, giving trainings about Robot Framework for the company I'm with. So yeah, I think it's great to get active there, to grow your knowledge, because there's a wealth of knowledge out there.
Love it. Love it. And maybe a little more shout out about the community aspects. I don't know, any thoughts around why, not only is Robot Framework, it has a lot of libraries that can help you with things, but everyone I speak to also say there's a lot of support from the community as well.
I think it's really, really important. I mean, when you look at open source projects that are of a certain size, one of the things is that that's really what drives that project is the community. It's the community that drives the project, it's the community that supports the project, it's the community that kind of makes that project an active project. Some of the things that we've been talking about is the idea that Robot Framework is a framework. And so we have all these different plugins that you can do in different areas. So maybe you're doing some testing AI, maybe you're working in an automotive space, maybe you're working in a embedded system space, maybe you're doing kind of your standard web testing, API testing, database testing. So we have all these different parts of it. And because Robot Framework is extendable, that means that each of these different parts really have a part of the community working on. And so the community is kind of that place where we share what we're working on, we share what our problems are. Elot was talking about it. Sometimes he's been answering questions, sometimes he's asking questions, right? And so that's kind of key to kind of growing. And I think that's a really important part is that we're one of the focuses we try almost, I would say, from the leadership standpoint within the community, is that we're trying to constantly build up our community. And this is Robot Framework as a tool. Many of us use it in our jobs. And so part of what we do behind the scenes is kind of help everybody grow in your knowledge of test automation, in testing. So not only just Robot Framework, but kind of the whole aspect of growing that individual in their skill set around test automation and testing. And I think that's something that makes our community special. I don't know if it's unique, and I actually would encourage all communities to do it. But I do know that's something that makes us special in the sense that we're really trying to build up each other and grow one another. So I'll throw out that encouragement again. anybody who's been working with Robot Framework, whether you're at a beginner level or an advanced level, I encourage you to kind of submit an idea for a talk for RoboCon, because we're always looking for that variety of talks. We're also looking to support you. And so if you've got something that you've just started working on with Robot Framework, I know I've talked to a few people who are kind of in that space. And so I've been encouraging them to kind of think about maybe something you're working on, something that you could share. Come talk to us. We're a very supportive community. And so, if you're a first-time speaker, there are things that we do to help our first-time speakers. Or if you have spoken every year, we also kind of do things to support those speakers as well. So as a community, we're just, we've got a lot of focus on building up one another. We've got a lot of focus on how do we make the best test automation solutions. And so we're kind of striving to always be better and always striving to help one another be better.
So that's a great point. Call for speakers is still open. If you head on over to robocon.io, or you go to the Learn More tab, click on the link, it'll take you directly to it. If you scroll down, there's a call for participation where you could submit your idea. Are there any ideas or topics you would love to get a speaker for, but always struggle, like, why won't anyone talk about this? I don't know if there's any of those that pop to mind for any of you, but.
Maybe one thing about the call for proposal. So in case people are hesitating to hand in a proposal because they think, I have trouble covering travel cost, or I don't have equipment to do good recording. Yeah. So there are always arrangements we can do to support the speakers. Yeah. So because there are those pay to talk conferences where speakers need to cover everything. But we can always arrange something from the foundation. Yeah. So we really want people to be there on the stage, especially new people being on the stage, and we will support them to make that possible.
Love it.
Also, if you have an idea in mind, but you're not so sure and you just want to talk with one of us first to check whether we think it's viable, please do get in contact with us, because we're always happy to help and help you drafting your proposal as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that learned experience, that's, I don't have a specific topic, but what I really like is, when somebody's going out doing some test automation, trying to solve some test automation problem, that learned experience, what did you learn? Why did you do it the way you did it? How was this, done in a way that really solved your problem? And what can I learn from it? What can I take away from it? And that's kind of, for me, is kind of the key when you think about talking is okay, I've done the experience. What can others grow from that? So shared experiences.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to say what Ed said. For me, this kind of a use case is like where people have used the framework in interesting ways, and what has worked, and especially what hasn't worked, where the failures were, why something went wrong, and then the lessons learned for others. Those are very interesting. Of course, all new tools, libraries, so on are very exciting. And of course, hearing updates to existing ones is also exciting. But this kind of a use cases are my kind of favorites. But what I really like is topics are typically very versatile. So we have different kind of talks. So during one day, there's many different kind of presentations.
Yeah, I remember one year you had something on security, and there was a plugin, a library I didn't know about, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. It was a real world, someone actually using this for security type testing. I don't know, Pekka, or anyone else, do you lose track of how many libraries are there, or there's a library that does something? I don't know, if someone, before they create anything new, is there a source or a source of truth they can go to see if it already exists?
There is. We do have a few different sources. One of the projects that we have out there is the Awesome Robot Framework list. And that list is a catch-all of about everything that we know of, or people have submitted. I know there's some tools that we can go in and do a little bit more searching down kind of the GitHub universe or the GitLab universe and look for those. But awesome robot framework. I'll see if I can find a link for that, Joe, and we can put that up. But that's a list of kind of all the projects out there. We have some of the kind of the more widely used and more commonly asked about ones on the robotframework.org homepage. And actually, we were just having a conversation earlier this week about updating that list to kind of bringing it back up to kind of a current listing. It's always a challenge. There's always, as Pekka was mentioning, we're always finding someone who's doing something really interesting with robot framework in a space that we just had not thought of.
Like
that list is kind of an ever-growing list.
What space? Have you heard of a space recently? You're like, huh.
Embedded systems always surprises me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Embedded systems surprises me. That's the one there. I've heard a few people doing things with kind of music. And that was kind of always an interesting test case. But so those are the ones that kind of come to my mind at first.
Nice. Yeah. So once again, if people are new to Robot Framework, they should realize it's like a wrapper almost on top of, there's libraries that plug in. So can it support Selenium? Yes. Can it support Playwright? Yes. It just gives you, what's the benefit of that, Pekka, I guess, this type of kind of framework for people that maybe like, okay, I can just use Selenium directly or Playwright directly, or anyone else have any thoughts on why Robot Framework makes it maybe easier or better?
Well, I guess that's one of the reasons why it has got so popular over the years is that the library API is uniform and pretty straightforward. So when you create the library for Robot Framework and it's generic, you can use it regardless are you doing like test automation or business automation, or is it a keyword-driven test or data-driven test or something like that. So the library API is the same regardless. So it's possible to make generic libraries. I guess that's probably one of the key factors why the framework has been so popular. In addition to there being a lot of ready-made libraries available, of course, the library API being simple and straightforward also makes it very easy for you to create your own custom libraries, which is very, very important as well. So if there isn't something available for what you are working with, maybe because it's new technology or maybe it's your internal custom technology that nobody could even have created any automation solution for you, you can always then create your own library. And it was a very good pick to use Python as the language for developing Robot Framework, because that's also the language that's used for creating libraries. It was popular already 20 years ago, but not the most popular language in the world as it's now. So nowadays, most people know it already. So it's easy to get started. And if people know some programming language, they typically know Python. So because the library API is simple, it's easy to get started with creating your own libraries and also other kind of extensions if needed.
So Eli, why did you choose Robot Framework? There's all types of frameworks out there for your day-to-day job. Any reason why you may have chose or latched on to Robot Framework?
Well, to be fairly honest, Robot Framework chose me, I think, because the first project I was on doing test automation was with Robot Framework, and I just hit it off from there, and I kind of fell in love with it, and I've never seen a reason to change, because Robot Framework, as we already discussed, can cover everything and anything. And if it doesn't cover your specific case, then you just build something for it to cover it. So that makes it so flexible, and still the execution framework itself is really strong and easy to use. So yeah, I just went with it, and I've never ever regretted that choice.
That's awesome. And Manny, I know you're very active as well. Any reason why Robot Framework to spend your time on? Would you be working on multiple different things, I guess.
So you mean what I'm working on right now, or
Like,
what do
why
you mean?
robot
Sorry.
framework? Why do you spend? It seems like you spend a lot of time on robot framework to
yeah,
me on the outside looking in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think sure. One reason is, of course, the community and the technologies being covered. I mean, in our company as a freight forwarder, I mean, we have web applications, we have desktop applications, mobile applications, we have REST APIs, documents that need to be compared. And the thing is, Robot Framework was one of the only frameworks which could cover all that stuff. We had commercial tools which were not as capable as Robot Framework, yeah, and not the cheap commercial tools, but the very expensive ones, yeah. So I think that's why one reason why I'm so excited about Robot Framework, yeah. So it enables you to do a lot, but it also encourages you to learn something, yeah, because you will start with the user guide and read it, but after a while you will get curious about the development of libraries. So it, for me personally, it helped me also to grow as a person and an engineer, yeah. So I've never learned as much as I think in the phase where I got into the Robot Framework community and exchanged and with the people, yeah. So this is why I just like it. And I think one of the first things I do in the morning is open the Slack channel on my mobile phone. It's silly, but I don't know, I can't resist.
Awesome. Well, that's a good point. I work for I used to work. I've been pretty much unemployed for 6 years, but I used to work for enterprise type companies, and yeah, you're not just testing a web browser; you're testing all types of things. That's one of the beauties of using a framework like this, where you're not locked into just web testing, and then you need to figure out, oh my gosh, how do I test this mainframe? There's still mainframes out there, or how do I test an API? Integrate it. So this integrates it all.
And there are mainframe libraries for Robot Framework as well. So
right, exactly. So Ed, I know you may have changed gigs recently or a few times. Do you usually introduce Robot Framework to new organizations, or are they already using it?
It's been a variety of the two. Of late, they've been using it already, and such. I also introduced it to new companies. So I think it's probably been a little bit more because of where I've been looking, but people who've been using it already. And so it's kind of a mixture of the two.
I know we mentioned this, but maybe for folks, once again, that have never attended, you mentioned this unconference day. And from what I hear, it looks like you can have, like, you can bring up a topic that, or maybe you're working on something you need help with. Like, can you maybe explain that a little bit more, what that's like?
So if you think about the main conference, there we've got talks that are scheduled. So you've got 2 days scheduled talks. Everything's already set up. Our unconference day is kind of the opposite. The unconference day is we've got a room, actually in several rooms for us available, where everybody comes out, and in that morning session, everybody sits down and says, hey, I am working on, for example, I'm doing the maintain the Selenium library. So I'm probably going to be doing some work on the Selenium library. So we say, hey, come on out. I'm working on the Selenium library. If anybody wants to help, I'm looking for some people to help contribute code to it. I'll show you how to do it. So I'll give a topic out, and then maybe else somebody will come and say, hey, I'm new to Robot Framework. Could somebody show me how to do this thing that I don't know how to do? And so really what happens is it's an unscheduled day. So no topics are set necessarily beforehand. We start to share ideas of things we want to do, but then we get together that day, and then we kind of, on that day, while we're there, the participants who are there kind of come together and say, let's spend, half hour doing this, and this group will go off into this room and do that. And then we'll come back, and maybe this group over here can work on this during this part of the day. And people kind of set the schedule themselves. So the participants are the organizers. And that's kind of what makes this day so very special. I've got numerous stories of people coming with, different things they want to work on. And that's been kind of, when I look back at all the years of the conferences, that's one of the most special things to me is I know people who are looking for, hey, we're trying to find other people who are doing mobile testing, and that was one of those topics, and then trying to connect up those people who are doing mobile testing. People have come and said, hey, I've had this problem. And so getting a chance to sit down, I've seen people who are new to robot framework come and sit with Pekka and work on problems. And that's been, a great joy to see kind of the generations of people working together. So it's just really what a wonderful day for the community. I use it in particular. I tell people, it says, if you've got a problem that you're trying to work on, this is one of those opportunities, great opportunities to ask people for help and to work with people who either might have the same problem or might have the solution or are just willing to kind of work with you and work through that problem. So that's kind of what makes the community day what it is and what makes it so special.
Yeah, so if I can add to that, Ed, it's everyone at the unconference, at the community day, really has a very active role in that. So there is no, well, you can obviously also passively listen in. That's fine as well. We're very happy to have you, but usually you're really, you can join into the discussion, into the work, listen to others as well. But it's like really working together. And then at the end of the day, where the morning session is more like from, okay, who has what kind of topics and how are we broadly going to plan this. At the end of the day, we also have a wrap up where we then for each session tell again, hey, this was kind of what the outcomes is, and maybe we're going to do this in the future, or maybe we'll go that in the future. So there is also a wrap up at the end where we come together as a whole again.
So, Manny, any thoughts yourself? Has anyone come up to you and said, "Oh, I've been using your library, and it would be cool if you added this"? Or do you get any ideas from people actually using it in the wild?
Yeah, and I'm always very, very thankful for that. Yeah, if people approach me in the Slack or by creating an issue, yeah, I'm always happy if people use the libraries. Yeah, sometimes I'm also looking at the statistics in PyPy. Oh, how often has it been downloaded? So it gives you some, I don't know, you're kind of proud. Hey, I put this out there, it's being used. And I always like when people ask questions and even if they propose new features, even better. Yeah. So that's great. One quick thing about the unconference day. I remember when I was a speaker at RoboCon in, I think, 23, I also visited the unconference day before. And I remember it was also nice as a speaker because you already kind of know some of the conference visitors. So then on the next day, when you're like on the stage, you're not speaking to a group of strangers, but you already had a few conversations with the people, and oh, those people are nice, they're cool. So even if you, I don't know, mess up your presentation, some bits, it's fine. Yeah, it's just a group of people. Yeah. So this also helped me to be like less nervous on stage. Yeah, I don't know. No, if that makes sense.
Is everyone in a sauna together? Just talking, getting to know each other before you go live?
Well, but funny enough, you mentioned sauna. So for those who aren't familiar to Finland, sauna is a cultural icon. It's a thing that in Finland is just part of Finnish life. Our venue, and it might change this year, but our past years, the venue where we have our community day, our good friends over at EfiCode, one of the local companies that have been a partner for Robot Framework for a long time, they have a sauna in their office. And so usually every year after our community day, those who want to come up to sauna can come up to sauna. And then we usually are all up there hanging out, talking about Robot Framework, talking about our lives, just catching up with people. But yes, we actually have sauna involved in the physical community day. So
it's also evolved in the virtual event the past few years as well. If people haven't joined, it's definitely unique. It's a really cool virtual space they make. I guess it's a replica of Beer Bear. That's an actual place where the conference venue is normally. Nice. It's
technically, I'm not necessarily. We might not technically call it the the official conference venue, but it might be the official conference venue.
Right.
It's a local spot in town that after the conference, we usually are kind of going over there and just hanging out and spending time with each other. So
Great.
Yeah, there's a kind of legendary after party after the last conference day, and then the after party happens to be close to this beer bar. So after the after party is done, people often go there to still continue the evening.
Awesome. So if you were going to ask someone to go to this event, is there one thing you would do to convince them or say you have to go to RoboCon because?
I think the meeting people face to face, if you have the opportunity to come to the in-person conference, there's the meeting people face to face. We also work to kind of provide that, as you're saying, kind of with this virtual environment, that opportunity for people also on the online conference. So kind of building that worldwide community. And I think that's one of the reasons why to join either one of those conferences, either the in-person one if you can, or if online is kind of what fits your schedule best, then doing that as well. So it's kind of meeting that face-to-face and having conversations with people there and getting the chance to kind of share and to learn at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with everything Ed said, but I want to underline the fact we also have always had a very, very good presentation. So if you want to learn more about robot framework, things about you didn't even know were possible or something like that, those presentations are worth watching, definitely. Good thing with this kind of conference that has very tight kind of scope is that then most of the I would say that all presentations are at least somehow interesting for you. If there's like a testing conference, most likely there, and you are into testing, then of course most of the presentations are somehow interesting, but that is so broad topic that it's likely that you are not so interested in all possible presentations. But in this conference, I think that if you are interested in robot framework, then there are most likely some talks, some presentations that are very, very interesting, absolutely the point to what you're doing. But then most of the others are something that is good to know about those, and maybe sometime later you find some usage for that knowledge as well. Also, the conference is one track only, and that's the reason is also that if we were to have two tracks, then it would be very, very likely that there would be two presentations at the same time that are interesting for you. In bigger conferences that have more broad scope, then that is less likely, but also, of course, that also happens, that you happen to have exactly like two presentations that you are interested in, and they happen to be at the same time. But that's not something that can happen here with RoboCon, either online or on site, because it's a single track conference. But yeah, so face-to-face meeting is very, very important, and that works, of course, better when it's on site. The GatherDown platform that we use on online is also actually pretty good, and especially if you know those people beforehand, then it works well. But also, it's possible to kind of get to know new people as well, so that's good. But yeah, the presentations are great, and then of course, think about robot framework kind of a foundation perspective. One important thing is that all the profits from the conference are spent for further robot framework development. So it's not the for-profit company that is taking the money and trying to charge as much as possible for it. It's the foundation that is sponsoring the robot framework developing. And of course, we try to keep ticket prices reasonable, but we also don't want them to be super cheap simply because, well, that's one of the major income sources for the foundation as well. And so that's one reason for you to join, that if you think that your company is benefiting a lot from the framework and you want to give something back, well, we absolutely appreciate all other kind of contributions like participating discussion on Slack, providing patches, creating new tools and so on. But of course, money helps as well. We can use money to sponsor external projects and the core development and so on. So that's one thing, that if you think that your company is benefiting from it, and then that's one way, that kind of easy way to spend money on our direction. Even if you wouldn't come to the whole conference, we would still get the money. But of course, we want you to come there as well and learn and participate and share your knowledge and so on.
All right. Manny or Eli, any thoughts on why someone should attend RoboCon in your opinion?
Yeah, so it's also about the connections that you make there. They might affect you also later on. Yeah. So for example, last year I gave, or was it this year, a talk about the self-healing using AI. And after the talk, someone approached me. He said, "Oh, Mani, that was interesting. You know, I have a master student in my company who's doing something similar, who really knows AI and who's into it." And I was like really happy, because my problem is always, I like to code, but I don't know much about AI and LLMs. Yeah. So he connected us. And in the last month, we then also developed a library together. Yeah. So it's great that you meet people and they say, "Oh, I know someone you should work with." And then me and someone from another company released something. Yeah. And this was all possible thanks to RoboCon, because we met there. Yeah. So that's great.
What's the library?
Um, it's another self-healing library, but it's a better one. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
Is that what it's called? The better self-healing library?
it's called Robot Framework Self-Healing Agents. It's a very, very long name.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a self-healing library for browser libraries, Selenium, and now also Appium very soon.
Wow, cool.
And I have the feeling it will be used by a lot of people. We just need to advertise it a bit.
Yeah, totally.
That's also one kind of nice aspect of Robot Framework being generic and the APIs being available there. That although actual self-healing, I don't know much about that, but I expect that on lower level that you need to do things differently on different kind of with different tools and different technologies. But the high level infrastructure is still the same. So Mani has now been spending time coming up with that. So it's easier now to add the self-healing capabilities to all kind of possibilities. So it's now in this web testing tools where of course you have more, where self-healing is needed more often because those locators are changing and so on. But it can be then adapted to other domains as well if needed and so on. So that's very cool.
Eli, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I think if you want to come to RoboCon, you look at the program, you come for the program, but you stay for the people.
Love it. Great. All right, guys. So, we are heading to 2026. This is a selfish question. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on AI, though, in general. Is this something that you think is legit, that testers need to be concerned about? And maybe they'll probably definitely learn more about it for sessions at RoboCon. But just curious to know anyone has any views or contrary views on AI.
Right at the moment, I feel it's exciting, of course, also to create solutions for Robot Framework. I'm wondering if when we will see that the security aspect of using MCPs and so on is something we need to be concerned of. Yeah. For example, this morning I opened my VS Code, which I use. I have a lot of extensions, and then I realized, why are there so many MCP servers and tools? And then I realized, okay, some extensions start installing MCP servers all of a sudden in the background. Yeah. And so you got them in your system without knowing, or at least I didn't see the notification. And I think this will be interesting, that all of a sudden you have an MCP server without knowing. And I think also other security aspects. So I think this could get interesting and we need to take care, but it shouldn't hold us back. So let me put it this way.
Nice. Anyone else views on AI?
I see it as a topic one needs to inform themselves about. I my background is electrical engineering, and so we were talking about large language models 20 years ago. And large language models in general for certain problems are really interesting ways of attacking problems. Generative AI, as it is currently implemented, to me seems to have a lot of issues with it when I look at the fundamentals. And that's basically trying to, if you want something that is based on fact or truth, this is not necessarily the way to get to that, is my thought. And so how useful is it as a tool, and what you're trying to do is a questionable thing. The MIT study that recently came out, and I'm always a bit cautious because I've heard people throw around the 95% failure rate, which is kind of the high level, one level sentence that the MIT study said. And it's actually a 25 page paper. And I've kind of skimmed through it. So you should definitely read it to understand what they're talking about and what they're specifically saying failed and what didn't fail and why. But I'm curious as to kind of how people use it and how well they use it, and how effective it becomes, because I think there's a lot of discussion around there, but then there needs to be a lot of, well, how do people really use this and use it well versus just anybody using it, and it just becomes something like any other tool. If I don't really use the tool as it's intended or what it works well with and such, then it just, so I'm on the hesitancy side.
Awesome. So I just typed into Cursor robot framework. I said, "Oh, would you like me to create a robot framework MCP? Would you like me to create you a robot framework testing suite for your app?" So that's pretty sweet. I didn't know that there was an MCP server, and Cursor knows all about it. So I think it's amazing. That's all the questions we have for now. And actually, we're almost out of time. Almost lost track. But thank you so much for joining us today. I highly recommend everyone join us at RoboCon, either on site or online. You can get there at robocon.io or click on the Learn More tab to go directly to it, or keep your eyes on your email. Everyone that registered for this event, for this webinar, will receive a follow-up email with links and contact information. And so if you have any questions, you want to learn more, you want to join, or if you want to submit a paper, I highly recommend you do as well. So thank you, experts, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank
Awesome
you.
stuff. Thank you.
Thanks all. It was great being here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this session. Really appreciate it. As I mentioned, we'll be sending out an email in a day or so with the link to this and also some more information. If you haven't joined RoboCon, once again, one last time, highly recommend you do. Definitely check it out, robocon.io, or click on that Learn More tab that you see to the right here. Would love to see you there. And thank you again for all your participation, all your questions. And we'll see you here next time. As always, test everything and keep the good. And we'll see you here later. Cheers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Hazis.
In a world of ones and zeros where the glitches never sleep, there's a guild of testers uncovering secrets deep.